Hey there, Wolfpack fans. It's me again, Kenton Gibbs, bringing you another episode of Locked On Wolfpack. And folks, I told you we were going to have a great lineup of guests this week. I'm bringing out a man who needs no introduction. He is the same face, just in a very new place with a new gig, looking great as ever, Mr. Brett Friedlander. How you doing, Brett?
Always great to talk to you, Kenton, so that makes my day.
Hey, listen, I'm excited to have you on, man. I'm excited to have you on. Hey, you know, when you got the new job, I told you don't let the money change it. Don't get Hollywood on me. You know what I mean? Don't do it. And you have it so far. So I appreciate that, Brett. I appreciate that. But we've got a jam-packed show today. Okay, we've got a ton going on from NC State being ranked as the 13th overall team to everybody saying we're going to be on upset alert at ECU, to some predictions in the ACC and talking a little bit of D-line. And we can't forget Jada Boyd is now coming back. So we're going to talk about all that and more today. But before we get to that, how's the new gig going for you, Brett?
It's a lot more work. I'm cranking out 7 columns a week now, and we're doing some crystal ball predictions on all the ACC teams, all 14 of them in Notre Dame. And getting used to that, but it's good. I'm getting to know a lot more about the teams outside the Old North State here.
Yeah, so at this point, I'm really looking at the Notre Dame situation, and I'm just like, are you in or are you out? They you know, back in the day when you used to be playing in the house and you used to go outside and go in, and your mom would say, pick one. You can't do both. You either gonna go out the house or you gonna stay in the house. You're gonna pick one. Is Notre Dame ever coming in the house officially for Notre Dame? For the ACC, or what do we got going on there?
No, they're going to stay with 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I think the new TV contract that they've got going on that they're about to finalize with NBC is a good thing for the ACC, because I think it means that Notre Dame is going to stay independent. And the best part of them staying independent, well, they're not going to be in the ACC in football, but they're also not going to be in the Big Ten. So that keeps that 5-game contract every year with the ACC intact, which means the ACC's TV contract doesn't lose any value. So I think they stay on the fence, and it's the status quo. Now, the only thing that changes that is if the playoff situation doesn't change. If it stays only 4 teams and you have to be a conference champion, maybe then they start thinking about it. But if they expand the playoff, like I think they're going to, and Notre Dame gets that new TV contract, they're not going to have to make a decision.
Absolutely. Well, that's a very interesting tidbit about Notre Dame there, but we're going to get into all NC State, all episodes. So Wolfpack fans, stick with us. This is going to be a great jam-packed show.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, Brett, let me ask you this, okay? Number 13 ranking. This is the highest ranking in NC State history. Goes back to when Lou Holtz was the head coach, right? Yep. I wouldn't even like throw out at a trivia night who was the skipper for NC State baseball last time this happened, because that's just way too far back. But I'm going to tell you this much. We all know Lou Holtz has been away from the game, or out of the game per se, for almost 20 years now. So with that being said, are these high expectations being as high as they've ever been in Raleigh, is this a good thing or a bad thing for NC State as far as this team?
Well, first of all, I think it was Sam Esposito, but I think it's an okay thing. If you go by history, it's not necessarily a good thing, because the law of the wolf says that anytime the expectations are the highest, that's usually when NC State performs at the lowest. But listen, history is made to be changed and made to be, the future is wide open. And I think this is a different group. This is a different team. I think that they've learned some really harsh lessons from the past couple of years, especially that the Holiday Bowl that was canceled. And I think they're extremely motivated. And I don't think they're going to take any of these 12 dates for granted. I think that they're going to be up to the task. and it'll be fun to watch.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm a little disturbed by this because I just looked it up, and you were close. Sam Esposito was an assistant coach
Oh no.
last time, but you were very, very close there. You almost got it. I said, wait a minute. Is this a thing? Did Brett have this already? And let me let y'all know this right now, fans. My reception went out the first time we recorded this, so we re-racked it from the top. But I did not throw that trivia in the first time. Brett just had this encyclopedic knowledge at the tip of his tongue.
My kids call me the black hole of useless knowledge. Now, if you ask me what I had for lunch yesterday or if I paid the mortgage last week, I couldn't tell you because I won't remember. But stupid stuff like that, right there at the top of my head.
Absolutely. Again, it's impressive. I'm gonna tell you right now. I got a friend who he knows like all of the award winners of like all the major awards for football, basketball, and baseball going back to like the 80s. He can like, if you're like, who's the MVP, who's the NFL MVP in like 97, he'll just instantly pop out with the answer. And I'm just like, how do you do this? How does your brain store this information? I don't understand. This is very interesting. But anyway, so with that being said, everybody is saying that NC State needs to be on high alert going into Greenville. Everybody's saying that this is, we've drawn a lot of comparisons to the boys in baby blue, and everybody's saying, look what happened to them last year when the expectations were high and da-da-da-da. And look what happened last year in Starkville and da-da-da-da-da. Is this a game that you look at and you say like, hey, NC State's got something to worry about here. This is something serious to worry about.
Well, the comparisons with NC State, with UNC and Virginia Tech in the opener last year are totally apples and oranges because the teams just were not as different in the talent level. Other than Sam Howell, that UNC had an incredible number of flaws, and I think it showed over the course of the entire season. NC State's going to go in there with superior talent at pretty much every position. And while East Carolina is a very good team, now they qualified to go to a bowl last year for the first time in 7 years. They've got a fifth-year returning quarterback in Holton Ahlers. It's a good team, and they're going to have an incredible atmosphere down there at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium because they've been waiting for this, and they have traditionally given Carolina and State nightmares when they've gone down and played in Greenville. But I think NC State is well aware of the fact that East Carolina is not the pushover that they've been and the teams that they just blew out the last two times that they've seen them. Right. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, they're way too motivated to just not show up. The only way State doesn't win this game or even makes this game a close game is if, A, they just waltz into Greenville thinking this is going to be easy and don't bring their A game. If they even come close to bringing their A game and our focus is I think they're going to be, they'll take care of business. Now, it's not going to be a slaughter. East Carolina is going to put up a fight, but State's going to be the better team, and I think they're going to win this, and it's going to be competitive, but not close.
Okay, I can feel that. I'm much more worried about the Texas Tech game, honestly.
Absolutely, because that's the kind of game State has really struggled in over the past few years. That non-conference game against a Power 5 opponent that is in the bottom half of its conference, and they always seem to look past that. The difference with Texas Tech, though, is that this year it's at home. You look at the West Virginia game a few years ago, the Mississippi State game last year. Those are games that are on the road. So I'm thinking that maybe they'll be fine in this one. The only thing that concerns me is that they look past it, to Clemson coming up 2 weeks after that. But I think this team just, like I said, they're coming off a bitter disappointment that they have not gotten over, and they learned how precious the opportunity is to play. And I just cannot see this team not showing up for one of those 12 games because, they learned you only have so many opportunities to play.
And some of them can be snatched away from you out of the thin of night, out of the, you know what I mean? So it's one of those situations. Again, I think that don't get me wrong. Both teams have quality passing games. We're talking about East Carolina and Texas Tech, but that's all that Texas Tech has been known for forever.
Yep.
I mean, going back to even before Mike Leach, like that team was known. They were going to air the ball out. They were going spread you out, and your corners were going to have to play some big time ball there. So it's a situation where that is a game that concerns me a little because of what we saw out of our corners last year. I have not seen enough. And again, ECU is good at passing the ball as well. We've talked about their quarterback. We talked Nailers, I believe is his name, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Nailers, we talked about him a little bit. Their receiving core is pretty good as well. They've got some weapons on the outside. Big number 13 as well. Their tight end. Is he a tight end or H-back or what?
I
What
think
is
he's
he?
an H-back. It's basically
Okay.
H-back is a tight end. So
Yeah. But he's good at what he does as well. He is a very good pass catcher as well. I'm not saying that ECU is trash or horrible or anything by any means, but when I look at the difference between these two teams, there is a chasm in talent. If we talk about how good Nailers is, then you say, well, would you rather have him or Devin Leary? I don't think that's close. You talk about
Holton Ahlers, yeah.
Ahlers, not Nailers. Okay,
yeah.
Holden Ahlers. And then you get to the linebacker core. We have one of the best in the nation, period. Regardless of conference, regardless of one of the best in the nation, period. And then the place where most games are won and lost, especially games where there's like a clear mismatch or games that are like blowouts, it's the big guys. Bringing back 4 or 5 starters from last year, bringing back a defensive line where you've got a first-team all-conference guy in Darden, and you're bringing back Savion Jackson, you're bringing back C.J. Clark, you're bringing back a lot of guys who played a lot of ball. Like this is not really a situation where I'm too concerned about game one. That is not the one that has me like, oh, hold on now, oh, we got to be ready. So that's just my take there, and I'm gonna tell you, I've been wrong before, and I don't think that this is one of those situations where it's like, I'm worried about being wrong here.
I think you're right. I think on both lines, I think at the point of attack, NC State is just much bigger, much better, much stronger, and I think that you're going to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and it's tough to win a game when you get manhandled up front, not only on offense but on defense as well. So, like I said, if they show up and they're focused, they win the game.
Absolutely. My money's on State in that game, and my money's on State to win big. And if you're a bettor, make sure you go to betonline.net. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your sports betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 source for odds, lines, and games. This is the time of year where you can find reviews and news for every league, including baseball, Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, and golf and esports. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting to scores and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Brett, Jada Boyd was leaving, and I talked about how it was a blow, but we were going to be all right. You know what I mean? But that was a significant blow given all that we've lost, and expecting her to come back and be one of those players that was going to take a big step next year.
Yep.
But with that being said, she's back now.
Yep.
And we're all excited about that. We're all very, very excited about this. So going forward into this season, what do you think as far as like having Jada Boyd officially coming back and all that good stuff? What impact do you think that has on this team?
Oh, it's huge because both Jada and Jakia Brown-Turner have kind of been the stars in waiting over the last couple of years. They've been major factors, and now they're going to be the primary factors along with Diamond Johnson. And I just think that it's their time to shine. Having her back is huge because she's so versatile. She can play inside, she can play outside, she can get to the rim. And she defends like crazy. And we're going to need, they're going to need somebody to replace Kai Crutchfield. So, listen, I think that team has got the potential to be just as good next year, and I think they're going to have the advantage of not being the hunted. I think that they're going to be overlooked by a lot of folks, and everybody's going to be jumping all over. Obviously Louisville and Virginia Tech, and Carolina's going to get a little bit of love. Courtney Banghart, gee whiz, what a mess she is. But I just think that. Her coming back makes this an even more complete team and a deeper team. So I think it's a huge development.
The thing that I find most interesting about this situation is the difference between her and Mimi Collins. Mimi Collins is a little bit longer, a little bit more, a little bit less explosive, and probably a better shooter. Mimi Collins is a little bit better of a shooter,
Yep.
but that's about where that would end. If you're looking at minute for minute productivity, last year Mimi Collins averaged 7.9 points and 4.8 rebounds. Jada Boyd 7.6 points, 4.4 rebounds. There is also a difference of 9 minutes per game in
I
that
was going
gap.
to say, look at the playing
So
time, because if
there,
you factor out Jada's stats over a 40-minute or even 30 minutes,
yeah,
they're even more significant. They're definitely more impressive. So yeah,
and that is this team is again losing four really really good players, four
hmm
program changers.
yep,
Is a big deal. Is a big
yep.
deal. But this team, I'm expecting Jada Boyd to have a take the next step breakout type season. I'm
And
expecting. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you talk about the comparison between Mimi and Jada, and that's what I'm talking about, the depth. This team is going to be a deeper team. Last year, they really only went maybe too deep on the bench. And I think this year, with the transfers and with the young players that are going to get some playing time now, I think you're going to see him be able to go 9, 10 deep.
And it's absolutely crazy to think about, because when you think about, well, who's going to be the odd player out? There's so many. The player who ends up being an odd player out is still going to be a very quality player.
Yep. Yep.
Whether you say that Camille Hobby doesn't end up the starting center and ends up coming off the bench, or whether you say that Winter from
Florida State.
yes, Winter from Florida State is going to be coming off the bench as the big. Whether you say with Jada Boyd leaving, with the thought of Jada Boyd leaving, what I said was Westmore does not try to fit square pegs into round holes. We've seen in the past, remember those teams where it was Maya Spencer and Dominique Wilson, and they did not have many quality bigs, so they would go four guards a lot. And
Yep.
that was what he did to get wins, because that's what he had to do.
Yep.
I said that there would be a very similar situation here in regards to the fact that if they did not have a post player or a post threat that could reliably you get them the ball on the block and they're going to do something with it, I don't think Westmore would have a problem playing like USF does, where it's like the bigs just get rebounds, just defend, guards and wings, y'all do the scoring. But it's not going to be that situation, which is a little easier to guard with Jada coming back.
And not only that, but you talk about the bigs. I think you're going to have, we mentioned Camille, and we mentioned the Florida State transfer, Winter, I believe her name is. You don't, they're two totally different players. Camille is a little undersized, but she can step outside, and she's shown that she can rebound. And the girl from Florida State is very physical. She's big, and I think that will give NC State the kind of inside presence they really didn't have last year, because Alyssa Cunane, as good as she was susceptible to being out physicaled inside, and to be moved out of the below post and everything. And I don't think that's going to happen this year.
Absolutely. This is a situation where this team is going to look drastically different. Like I don't think that anybody is having any doubts about, will this team look the same as it did last year? Of course not. This is going to be a very, very different team. But with that being said, this different team does not mean that we should be expecting a completely different result. That's not the case. And also, we're thinking of River Baldwin. I don't know why I keep getting names wrong.
River Ball,
I
not
don't know
Winter.
why
Yeah.
I keep getting names wrong today. That's on me. That's not you. I led with it, and I kept
I
getting it
know.
wrong.
I know.
I knew
That's
it had
okay.
something to do with the elements or outdoors of some sort.
I just remember she was at Florida State, and I just remember watching them in the ACC tournament last year, and how impressed I was with her. As physical as she is, and as big and as bulky as she looks, she's very athletic, and does have some nice offensive moves.
Absolutely. And again, there is so much talent on this team. There is so much there are so many different ways that this team can play and be effective. Because when you really look at everybody, I think that most people are looking forward to, or are expecting, Diamond Johnson to be the one of the leaders on the team, one of the main contributors, and many people are expecting her to be the main playmaker. And I have to disagree there. When I look at what Jakia Brown-Turner does with the ball, she always seems to make the right play. Whatever that play is, if it's her shooting, if it's finding the open player, she just does it at a higher clip than Diamond Johnson has done it so far. And so I think that the next step in Diamond Johnson's game is to be that playmaker, to be more efficient in her decision making. And I think for Jakia, it is to be who you are night in and night out.
Yeah.
It's to show up and know I don't have the luxury of expecting Alyssa to go off for 20, of expecting Kai to have one of her nights where she goes 5 for 5 from deep, of expecting Kayla Jones to have one of her nights where she's like 2 points or so off from a triple-double. I can't have that night where I expect that. I got to show up. I got to ball. I got to make this thing roll.
You know, the thing about Diamond, too, is when she had the ball, when she was that main ball handler, she could get to the rim. She slashed, and she was able to create for herself. But when it came to perimeter shooting, I thought she was better off the pass rather than the dribble, and that, you know, somebody else setting her up where she could set and be ready and squared and shoot. I just thought she was a better shooter, not with the ball in her hand.
Absolutely. And one player that I have not talked about enough on this show, but I need to talk about her more because I think that she's a player that's going to have a big impact on this team next year. Sanaya is a player that I think she's going to have a huge impact. Wow, it's another River. Anyway, Sanaya Rivers is a player that I think is going to have a huge impact on this team because with what we have as far as our shooting outside, when you have a Diamond Johnson, when you have a Jakia Brown-Turner, when you have players like that who can stroke it from outside without any doubts, you have a Mimi Collins who can stretch the floor to a degree as well. You have a Zaya James who, I mean, I haven't seen her take a lot of shots from deep, but if she's as good as that, as she is everything else that we've seen her do on the court, it's going to be a pretty easy time to get some space. Sanaya is a 6'1" guard wing hybrid that gets to the rim at will. When she wants to get to the basket, there's nothing you can do. You want to say, well, we're going to build a wall, but guess what? If you then surround her with shooters, I mean, it's a simple calculus here. In building your wall, you're going to need to take a piece from somewhere else to put there. And then, you know, she finds the open player. She shows why she was the Gatorade Player of the Year in North Carolina, I believe, for 2 years straight. Was she for 2 years straight?
At least one, but yeah.
Okay.
She's a transfer from South Carolina, right?
Right. Transferred to South Carolina, number 3 player overall in her class, which was only 1 year ago. So I think that this is a situation where this team is different from last year's in that they don't have as much experience. But the place where this team outpaces last year's is in versatility. There are more weapons who can do more things than there were last year.
Well, last year was a traditional inside-outside team. I think this is going to be more of a wing perimeter team that really plays a lot more, I mean, even more up-tempo than last year's team.
Absolutely. And when I talk about Sanaya Rivers, she's a defense to offense. She's a very quick, oh, don't worry about it. You're going to make a lazy pass on me? And she might be one of the first players that we see dunk at NC State. That might be one of the first. It's possible.
I hope I'm there that night for that because I guarantee you want to talk about Reynolds and having the roof get blown off of that place?
Oh,
try that.
Boy, I tell you what, the roof would be missing like my hair in 2020. But with that being said, I think that this is a Jada Boyd coming back is a great thing for this team. Again, she's a post player that has moves committed to memory. When you give her the ball, she is decisive. She gets it and she knows right away, this is what I want to go to, or I don't got to look right now. Let me go ahead and find one of my teammates. It is having her back will have a huge impact on this team. Again, I said that losing her was a big deal, but that this team could still be very good. With her coming back, while many people are going to say, oh, yeah, we're picking the Wolfpack to finish 4th or 5th in the conference or whatever the case may be, I think that if these players don't even like live up to their greatest potential and their greatest selves, I think if they just play the way that we've already seen out of them, I think that it'd be hard for me to figure this team finishes any lower than 2nd or 3rd. In the
if they pick this team to finish 4th or 5th, basically they're setting Wes Moore up to be coach of the year again.
Well, I mean, listen, I ain't got a problem with it. In West we trust, okay? In West we trust. We're going to talk about some defensive line. I mean, some defensive line, the guys, the better looking buffet busters, the slightly slimmer, you know what I mean? The debonair, good look. That's another story for another time.
I wonder what position Kenton played.
Yeah, it's not important. We don't need to get into that right now. But the good looking buffet busters, we'll get into them in just a second. So we're about to land this thing. But Brett, talk to me because I got some questions about this defensive line, okay? I think that Durden is big time. I think that he's one of the best interior defenders in all of the land. But with that being said, you're losing a guy like Joseph on the edge.
Yep.
You're in a situation where somebody's going to have to step up and be that pass rusher, be that edge rusher at times when, I mean, yes, the 4-2-5 or the 3-3-5 is known for blitzing and creating chaos, but sometimes you need to be able to get home with just 3 to 4 guys. Who is the guy on the outside that you're looking at to say, he's going to be the next one? He's going to be the guy off the edge that's giving folks problems.
Everything that I've heard is that Savion Jackson has had an amazing camp and that he's just stood out. So I'm thinking he's going to be the guy. He's going to at least get the first shot at it. Like you mentioned, CJ Clark is in that mix. And listen, this is a group that has been recruited to be depth. I mean, we talked about this earlier. This is a program, not a team. And Doran has stocked up. And so, there are guys that are waiting their turn, but I think Savion's the first one that's going to get the opportunity. Listen, they don't have to be great because with those linebackers and with the safeties that this team can roll out there, they're going to have an opportunity to they're going to have extra time to get to that quarterback because I don't think they're going to be a lot of receivers running down the field unchecked.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you what, I ain't never had a problem with a covered sack. I ain't never saw a covered sack I didn't like, okay? I don't, you know what I mean? I used to give my guys shout-outs all the time.
It's usually the other way around. Usually it's the defensive line that gives the backs and the secondary, a time they don't have to cover those guys as long. But I think in this particular case, the strength of this team is back, on the backside there, the linebackers and again with the safeties. And you mentioned the corners are, a little bit suspect, but, you got guys coming back from injuries, and I think they're going to be better. So I just think that they're the ones who are going to be dictating this thing. And there's enough talent up front, they'll get to the quarterbacks.
Absolutely. And when I look at this defensive line, the thing that's so interesting about this team is when you look at teams that are on the cusp of the top 25, you look for strengths. You look for what do they do well? What's the thing that has them here? But at a certain point, when you start talking about you want to be a conference champion, you want to be in a playoff conversation, you want all those things, well, then you start looking at weaknesses, okay? And when I look at potential weaknesses for this NC State team, defensive line is not one of them. They have a lot of guys. From all reports of what I'm hearing, Big Josh Harris in the middle there has slimmed down a little bit, and he's apparently been rolling and just running to the ball like a madman.
Davin Van is another one.
And that's the thing. We could talk ad nauseum about how the depth of this defensive line, you don't hear bad things. And let's be honest, coaches now are more brutally honest than ever. Coaches now will gladly say, hey, this player we just haven't seen it. Or coach speak for we haven't seen it or they're not that good yet is they've got a long ways to go. They've got a very long ways to go. I have not heard anything like that about any of the defensive linemen here for NC State now. So I'm thinking if this defensive line is looking as good as it's being spoken about in camp, we all know there's only so many best shape of my life stories. And we all know there's only so many this unit is ready stories that we can hear. But with that being said, if this defensive line is everything that they're chalked up to be, I think that the ACC is in trouble.
The only time I think that I kind of worry about them a little bit is when there's a mobile quarterback like a Malik Cunningham at Louisville, which they play on the road. Guys that they have to go after and who can make plays, by improvising. That they've had a problem with guys like that in the past. But if you think about it, Malik Cunningham is really the only one that they're going to face this year.
And remember, it's particularly interesting that you said that because last year, the guy that we had to keep him kind of bottled up and in the box was Vi Jones. who is no
Yep.
longer with the
And
program.
and that's the one guy that I think they're going to miss. Yeah. Well,
And so-
and Joseph. Yeah.
Yeah, Joseph and but I'm saying as the primary spy on him
Yep.
was
Yep.
was
Levi.
Vi Jones,
Yep.
and so it's there is that question there. But like you said, thank God that this ain't the quarterbacks now in the ACC, absolute ballers.
Yep.
They cannot do a ton with their legs. This is not. We are not looking at the ACC when it was like, oh yeah, Jameis Winston is the sneaky athletic one of the group. And then you've got Deshaun Watson and you've got Lamar Jackson and you've got, Lamar Jackson's such a bad boy. I was watching him play against NC State, and I was not feeling too great at that time about having to retire because of injury. And
I tell you what, though, that Thursday night game,
let me tell
Bradley
you,
Chubb.
I watched what he did the first time that he played against NC State during his Heisman year, and I said to myself, being retired ain't so bad. It's really not. There's worse things in the world. You know what I mean? I'm happy. I'm on a golf course, basically. This is cool. But anywho, thank you so very much for coming out, Brett. We appreciate you every single time. Tell the folks where they can find your new work at your new gig.
SaturdayRoad.com. And you can catch anything that I post, that I write will be posted on my Twitter account, which is, you see it right there on the screen, at BeFreedACC.
Appreciate it so very much. Y'all go follow him, man. Like I said, they say, his family says it's useless knowledge, but to be able to dig back in the archives of NC State back to 74 baseball, like it's nothing, is impressive. If the man loves nothing else, he loves himself some ACC sports. So make sure y'all follow him. And make sure y'all get some good, great information from Brett, all right? Peace and love, y'all. And as always, go Pack.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.